All right, I think we're live. So good morning and welcome. It's Wednesday, April 7th. This is a joint standing committee of the Environment and Natural Resources. We're assembled electronically to hear testimony for LD 809. And then after that, we'll move on to work sessions. And in the afternoon, we have confirmation hearings.
Excuse me, Senator Brenner, excuse me. Senator Miramont has asked if the link could be resent to him.
Great. Sabrina, would you be able to make that happen?
Yes, I actually just sent it to him.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and start with introductions. We'll start with Representative Bell.
Good morning, Art Bell, House District 47, Yarmouth, Shabeek, and Long Island.
And Representative Ziegler.
Good morning. I'm Representative Paige Ziegler from District 96 in Waldo County. The 7 towns of Belmont, Liberty, Lincolnville, Montville, Morrow, Palermo, and Searsmont.
And Representative Dudera.
Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day here in District 94. I'm Vicki Dudera. I represent Camden, Rockport, and Islesboro in the House. Thanks.
Representative Bloom.
Good morning. I'm Lydia Bloom. I represent House District 3 in York.
Representative O'Connor.
Good morning. I am Beth O'Connor. I represent the individuals of House District 5, which is Berwick and part of North Berwick.
And Representative Tucker, who's my co-chair.
Thank you. Ralph Tucker, Brunswick, Maine, House District 50. Thank you.
And I'm Stacy Brenner, Senate District 30, which includes all of Gorham, most of Scarborough, and part of Buxton. So we have a handful of folks signed up to testify this morning for LD 809, an act to prohibit the purging of volatile organic compound gases from oil tankers in the waters of Maine. And we will just remind you all that the chat function will be used just for logistics and not for anything substantive in our discussion today. And it looks like Senator Miramont has joined us. So we will go ahead and let him introduce his bill. Welcome, Senator.
Good morning, Senator. How are you?
Doing very well. Thanks for asking.
Great. Well, I'll launch in since it introduces myself in this testimony. And good morning, Representative Tucker as well, distinguished members of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. I'm Dave Miramont. I proudly represent all the people of Appleton, Camden, Creehaven, Cushing, Friendship, Hope, Isla Ho, Matinicus, Muscle Ridge Islands, North Haven, Owl's Head, Rockland, Rockport, South Thomas, and St. George, Thomas, and Union, Vinyl Haven, and Warren in the Maine Senate. And I'm here to present LD 809. It came to my attention that many of the large ships that deliver oil, fuel, and other chemicals have a need to vent their holds of the gases that are given off by their cargoes. These are not harmless gases, and if given off in the proximity of humans or animals can cause respiratory problem and other issues. A merchant mariner in my district pointed out that other states had prohibited this practice in the same way that dumping untreated seawater ballast was previously prohibited. That is what this bill attempts to do. These transport ships spend little time in ports, so the venting can be done offshore where it should be harmless to life, if not the environment. I believe that once the ship's captains are made aware of this restriction in Maine law, they will cease to do it if it was previously the practice. For that reason, I do not seek new penalties for non-compliance in this addition to the current statute. I don't know if everyone was copied on Representative Ziegler's email pointing out that there are some restrictions already. Yeah, I'm not the one to judge whether our laws cover that. Federal laws, international do not cover state waters. So I'm looking forward to a hearing where I learn more and I hear from the fellow that brought this concern to me and made me want to put this in. So, and he should be here. He was planning to be. Thank you for your consideration. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Before we move on to questions for Senator Miramont, I want to give Representative Hanley an opportunity to introduce himself.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Hanley. I represent District 87, which is Pittston, Alna, and Westcasset, and Randolph. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome. Are there questions for Senator Miramont? Okay, I believe we have from the department, Jeff Crawford. So we'll bring Jeff Crawford in next. Good morning, Mr. Crawford.
Good morning, Senator Brenner. Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, and members of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. I'm Jeff Crawford. I'm the Director of the Bureau of Air Quality at the Department of Environmental Protection, and I am here today speaking neither for nor against LD 809. Shipping activities are responsible for significant air emissions, and over the last decade, new federal and international standards for marine vessels and their fuels have led to significant reductions in air emissions. Engines, however, are not the only source of air emissions from shipping, with petroleum products conveyed to fuel marketing terminals and petrochemical industries via ships and barges, also accounting for evaporative emissions in some urban coastal areas and inland waterway ports. A little background on these evaporative emissions. Evaporative emissions from marine vessel operations typically result from three processes: loading, ballasting, and transit. Loading losses occur as organic vapors in empty cargo tanks are displaced to the atmosphere by the liquid being loaded into the tanks and are usually the largest source of evaporative emissions from petroleum vessels. Vessel loading usually only occurs at refineries or at the terminal end of the pipeline where the product is loaded for distribution. However, petroleum liquid shipped in supertankers may be unloaded to barges or smaller ships in a harbor or bay to allow the larger tanker to enter shallower ports. In this situation, called lightering operations, vessel loading emissions occur along with ship transit and ballasting emissions. Ballasting emissions may occur during ballasting, which is the process of drawing ballast or water into a cargo hold. When ballast is loaded into tanks that contain vapors from the preceding cargo, the vapor is displaced or pushed out and emitted from the vessel. Most ships and barges carrying crude oil and other petroleum products since 1980 are required by domestic law and international agreement to use segregated ballast tanks, which prevent the possibility of ballast emissions. And finally, transit losses are similar to breathing losses associated with petroleum storage tanks. Transit loss is the expulsion of vapor from a vessel compartment through vapor contraction and expansion, which is a result of changes in temperature and barometric pressure. Essentially, it is a breathing. As I've noted, evaporative emissions from marine vessel operations are significant in ports with large petroleum refineries and distribution operations. The United States Environmental Protection Agency regulates this activity at larger facilities through its National Emission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutant, or NESHAPS program. In some areas with significant air pollution problems like Houston, Texas, and Long Beach, California, also regulate vessel loading activities and vessel ballasting activities. Maine does not currently regulate vessel loading operations since our ports are routinely unloading rather than loading marine vessels. Ballasting is likewise not regulated beyond federal and international requirements in Maine ports. I'd like to mention a fourth source of evaporative emissions that is not associated with typical operations, but as a result of degassing operations undertaken to remove volatile organic compounds in preparation of cleaning a marine vessel. Some jurisdictions regulate the cleaning and degassing of marine vessels and bulk petroleum tanks, requiring the use of add-on emission controls for vessels and tanks carrying volatile products. The department is currently developing rules to address this activity, both for bulk petroleum storage tanks and marine vessel emptying and degassing operations. Thank you for the opportunity to provide our comments, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, or at least try.
Representative Ziegler.
So I just want to ask, did you go through the Code of Federal Regulations and looking at the issues about loading and unloading and MARPOL?
Yeah, most of the references I noted in the Code of Federal Regulations are actually in 33 CFR, which is shipping under the Coast Guard. And there are, a variety of requirements for ballasting. And again, those are primarily related to water discharges. Ships are prohibited from discharging anything other than clean water. I think clean is actually defined as something that would not leave a sheen on the water. I didn't find anything related to Coast Guard requirements for air emissions. At the state level, I did mention some of the ports do regulate this activity. New Jersey has rules requiring the control of emissions from ballasting. But the reason they're able to do that is they're doing both vessel loading. So they've got refineries or pipelines that are loading to the vessels rather than unloading. And as a result of the size of the ports, they actually control those emissions through add-on controls, whether they be carbon absorption, chillers, thermal oxidizers, or incinerators, if you will. So while the ships are tied up to those terminals, they're able to control those emissions from ballasting activities.
Just to
Do you have a follow-up, Representative?
Yeah, there are states that have this: California, Washington, Alaska, Oregon, and Texas.
Yep.
And I've been in all of those. And the traffic is horrendous going into either Long Beach or into Houston. Do you feel that there has been, you've been monitoring air quality, and we had a bill in last session in regards to the air quality along the coast, and you said that the DEP was going to produce a paper talking about that. Have you seen any increase in discharges in regards to this?
The actual emissions from these vessels can be significant. And again, just remembering that most of the vessels, I think, servicing the area now are going to be post-1980. We're going 40 years on. So they would have segregated ballast tanks. So it shouldn't be a problem from them, but did a little bit of a calculation looking at a general purpose tanker. And I think Representative Ziegler can probably explain that a little more. That's a smaller oil tanker that might be used to serve a port such as Portland. And just taking averages of 5.6 million gallons capacity, if it was carrying gasoline and it ballasted to 30 or 35% of its tank capacity, its emissions would be about 0.78 tons when it conducted that activity. So from a momentarily or short-term standpoint, it's fairly significant emissions. Unfortunately, we really don't have any idea at this point in time at the Department of Environmental Protection how many of these ships are actually out there and how widespread that is. Again, most of the newer ships are going to have segregated ballast tanks. As far as loading activities, again, there is no petroleum loading going on in the state of Maine that we are aware of.
Just one last follow-up. Okay, so going forward on that, do you feel that we should take and introduce and pass a bill similar to California's or any of the West Coast states or Texas or New Jersey? Do you think that we need to do that?
No, again, without loading facilities, it really isn't a problem at the terminals. They're not equipped for it at this point in time. I did mention, our proposal to move forward with rules for emptying and degassing marine vessels when they're performing that activity. But that's an infrequent activity, and there are portable control devices that can be used to address that issue. So it shouldn't be a day-to-day problem. Whether there's a benefit to a general prohibition that Senator Merrimont mentioned, with the expectation that the shipping industry will in fact follow that. That might be an opportunity.
Representative Bloom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Crawford, so we don't really know the extent of the emissions in Maine. You say you don't really have that quantified.
I would have to get a good estimate of the number of both ships and barges that have non-segregated tanks in order to find that out. And then we would have to know what they are carrying to perform those calculations.
And the problem in Maine isn't the loading, it's the only thing that the only one of the things that you talked about, the sources of this, we don't load up the ships, we unload the ships.
Exactly. So any emissions would be from ballasting or incidental emissions from transit through the waters of the state.
Yeah. So in other words, so there's, I guess I got to read back on and find out what was the impetus for this bill, and is the so the problem isn't quantified. I guess that's my point, and that it has to be done in order for us to figure out what to do with it. It seems to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions for Mr. Crawford this morning? All right. Let's take a moment to allow Senator Bennett, who's joined us, to introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I am Rick Bennett. I have the honor of serving 13 towns in the beautiful western foothills and lakes region of Maine in the Maine Senate, in both Oxford and Cumberland counties. Sorry to be late, but I was getting my vaccine this morning.
Wonderful. Welcome. And next up, we have Michael Ames, who's here to testify in favor of the legislation. Welcome, Mr. Ames. You'll want to unmute yourself, and if you're willing to join us in full picture form, you'll want to turn on your video. All right, Mr. Ames, I'm gonna see if I can try to help you unmute here. Huh. Whoops, he just took off. Well, Sabrina, any thoughts on this? Have you heard from Mr. Ames? Oh, there he is. Welcome. We can see you. You'll need to unmute. All right, we'll take a collective deep breath and patiently wait for Mr. Ames. You're back again. Try down in your far left corner, Mr. Ames. There should be a little microphone with a red line through it. And if you click, yeah. Oh, there we go. Great. Welcome.
Yes.
We're
Good
glad
morning.
we're glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Where shall we start? I've listened to Mr. Crawford's presentation, and he actually brings a lot of operational memories and everything back to me, having retired about 4 years ago. My whole career spent with hauling crude oil out of Alaska and trading it to West Coast ports, Gulf of Mexico, Panama, all tankers. So I'm well aware with CFR, IMO, OCIMF, ISGOT, you name it. We've been faced with it and actually have to implement it and put it into work to keep everything going. And as you might imagine, probably with problems along the way that, fortunately for me, survived them all. So I'm here. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm here promoting a betterment for the environment and for business. So I hope that that I can make my point, and it still helps in making things better for the state. And not getting any kind of argument of pros, cons, business versus the environment. I'm not here for that. And I can tell you after listening to Mr. Crawford, there's at least one other process that goes on that's not covered in everything that he said. And that is what I think I experienced a couple of falls ago. I'll be 19. I was coming back across the bay, Lower Penobscot Bay, Botanicus to Owl's Head. And as a professional, basically interacted or passed an outbound Irving tanker. And I can presume that the tanker was empty. Cargo had been discharged, as is what happens in Maine, mostly all discharging, no loading. So that risk is not there. However, as I passed the vessel, a clear day, beautiful day, I noticed that this older tanker, relative to what Mr. Crawford is saying, had probably been retrofitted with required compliance regarding stack emissions, for instance. That has all changed and has been a recent change in the improvement of air quality for marine shipping. So I thought I was viewing that a retrofit of a second stack system on this ship that was emitting a pretty heavy white cloud, which is, to me, it signifies that it's not main propulsion, it's something else. And probably that is probably inert gas. You heard Mr. Crawford talk about when you're at the terminal, cargo comes in, gas goes out, and the gas goes back ashore. When the ship is discharging cargo, it has to supply its own gas system to do that, so that when the liquids are going ashore, the ship is using its own, what we call an inert gas system, to displace that liquid and replace it with basically clean stack gas in the form of nitrogen that goes in those tanks. So at the completion of the cargo discharge, the ship sails, okay? And if now there's a repair that's required on that ship, the poor chief mate has got a broken valve down in a tank, and it needs to be repaired. And his next cargo is 24 hours away up in St. John's for the next voyage. They've got to get that tank cleaned so that they can get down there and get it repaired. So to do that, they have to start up this inert gas again and purge this tank clear of all volatile gas. It's not only for the human entry into that tank, but explosion as well, fire and explosion. So as I'm passing this tanker, let there be no doubt in anybody's mind, I got hit with an aromatic that was, to me, evident of a cargo operations process not connected to a terminal with a vessel underway in pilotage waters. That kind of concerns me because our practices on the West Coast with the business unit that I worked in was that we did not conduct any of that operation in pilotage waters or in state territorial waters. Not only for the environmental side of it, but for the risks associated or the additional risk with making sure that you're safely navigating that vessel and operating properly the machinery associated with that maneuvering. Shall I pause? Does that, and I hope I'm making easy sense of it. I hope.
Yes, thank you. I think what I'd like to do, Mr. Ames, is allow the committee to direct some questions your way, if that's okay. And hopefully you can, I don't see a written testimony submitted, but if you have something in writing that you'd like to put forward to the committee, that would be great too. Representative Ziegler.
I did submit the written testimony. I sent it by email in on the system. It didn't get in, I guess. So I'm sorry to hear that. But
oh, that's okay. We'll get it loaded up, and Sabrina can help us with that. Thank you, Representative Ziegler. Representative, you're muted.
You know, I was hoping to go through a day without that. Good morning, Mr. Ames, and congratulations on retirement. I've been 7 years retired. So a couple questions quickly. That was obviously an American flag vessel?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you take the name of the vessel?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was, it was an Irving tanker. I forget the name of it. And I'd be happy to even share some more stuff with you on that, because I did follow through. I went through the whole process of even talking to the marine manager at Irving, which I thought was kind of interesting that I was able to touch bases with him. And that was 2 years ago. So I'm kind of wondering where we were in this process, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the Coast Guard, did you contact the Coast Guard? Do you feel that they were violating the CFRs or MARPOL in this case? I know, and I may ask you in regards to, I assume, which model state do you want to model these regulations after? California or Washington or Oregon? It's usually California, correct?
No, actually, what comes to mind, and in California, yes, and as a matter of fact, you have Maine people that are working for the for those marine for that marine industry out in Southern California. I find that they're kind of fun, but Washington State primarily is where we conducted most of our discharges with that Alaskan crude oil. So. Mostly there, of which you may recall or you may know that they went through their state went through an interesting court case with, well, not IMO, but one of the international groups, and basically lost the case on wanting to do a better job at controlling their own destiny with oil traffic, and I guess the Coast Guard was involved with that.
Okay. Can I just follow up? So you were discharging crude, correct? As opposed to what will be discharging in the state of Maine, correct?
Sure. Crude oil is, of course, the basics, but yet in Maine, you're doing all the distillates, which are, derivative of crude. So basically the hazards, the environmental show of it, and all the processes for safe discharge of cargo is extremely important and very, very complex, and it needs to be practiced. So there's all kinds of stuff that goes with this. And like I say, when I experienced it, I could be absolutely wrong, but probably not. that ship was probably engaged in a purging operation because of the pressures associated with having to get a tank repaired so they could get the next cargo loaded and get on to the next discharge port for that voyage. So it's a day-to-day transition of challenge with what do the rules say? What can I do to keep this ship moving safely and yet get the cargoes delivered for the business health of the show also in our community. So, and that's what I thought I was experiencing.
Okay.
That's initial.
One last question. Do you think that that they violated any of the U.S. laws? And yes, we live by CFRs. And we, for those of my fellow committee members, we were very well regulated, with very strict regulations, and there were fines and in some cases jail sentences in regards to malfeasance of being a ship's officer. But that said, do you think that they violated the U.S. laws in what they did? And if not, then I would agree we need to go to state laws to protect our air. And the last question just is, do you think that this is indicative of a larger movement, or do you think it was just that vessel pushing?
Oh, well, it's a broad-based question, and I don't want to muddle you down in a lot of my experiences. My guess is no, they were not breaking any IMO or MARPOL or any type of maybe company practice or policy. I'm not sure. Within my experience within our business unit is the state of Washington, for instance, would allow purging in certain waters, but prohibited it in other waters. And yet our business unit said that probably in good stewardship, it was the right thing to do, just not to do it at all. Just don't do it until the pilot is away, the ship has left state waters, and then you can go ahead and engage in your repair processes or whatever you're doing. There's another element to this too that a lot of people don't understand or haven't even thought of. And that is to do all these other operations, cargo operations, while the vessel is underway, being safely navigated in U.S. territorial waters. You probably wouldn't want to engage in these type of activities because they have a potential of disturbing your machinery that's running the engines and running the rudders, and you could have a potential loss of the plant, we call it, because you are initiating high voltage machinery and other places on the ship to engage in this tank cleaning process or purging process. You would not want that to be interfering with the stability of the electricity that's running everything else to keep your ship safely navigating. And we've been through that. I've experienced those type of what we call brownouts, where you don't quite lose the plant, but it starts going down that road and you go, boy, I'm glad we're out to sea when we did this, because this would not have been a good thing if we were in pilotage water somewhere. And that's part of that's something else I wanted to bring to the Maine State Pilotage Commission's attention, Maine DOT. I talked to the DEP, Friends of Casco Bay. I went to Port Safety Forum meeting with the Coast Guard down in Portland, and been trying to get engaged and get involved. And this was just one reason why. So I really was running into a lot of walls with this until I said, well, finally, I've just got to call my local legislator and see if they will maybe listen. And I'd like to think that that it was a good thing that Senator Marymount took the time to listen. So I'm trying to, like I say, just provide this information so that you all know what's going on with this operation in the state of Maine, and saying it in a way that we make it better, not trying to crucify anybody or get rid of anything or just to make it safer and make it better. And my written testimony, I even wrote a solution in there for wording to be used that's it would be very easy. You could send it to the shippers, the agents, the whole show, provided a solution. But sometimes it takes a state regulation to make sure that everybody's paying attention to business and that they know what they can do and, more importantly, what they cannot do. And in this situation here, I don't think you want these outbound tankers to be engaged in any other activity other than safely navigating that vessel while it's in state waters. That's the bottom line. That's my words, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Representative Dudera has a question.
Thank you, Chair Brenner, and thank you, Mr. Ames, for being here, and really appreciate your advocacy and all the work you've tried to do to get to the bottom of this and on behalf of our state and our oceans. And I'm curious, I have two questions. First off, what would your behavior have been any different if this law was in place? What would you have done in terms of the vessel and what you suspected happened? And then I'm also curious about what you learned when you did try to contact Irving. Thank you.
I'll take the second one first. I will tell you that I think it was Mr. Olson was very willing to take my call and listen to me, and I chatted with him about it very, very quickly. I wasn't calling him to complain. I was calling him as a professional just to share with him that if you're doing this, you might want to consider what you're doing, and maybe that would have generated maybe a policy change for him and his Marine department so that they could make sure that they don't trap themselves in getting caught between the risks associated with running a tanker because they got to take it from point A to point B now and have it ready. And that's usually the pressure that messes us up. Every time you have in the transportation business, it's always a schedule, charters orders, cost and demurrage. And then is there anything there that turns into an incompatibility with the environment or the time and the clock and labor restrictions, labor law, fatigue requirements, and how are we going to get this done? And that winds up turning into a misperception by the people on the ship. So if there's no law there that says I can't do it, then you know what? Maybe we'll do it. And then the error change starts. That's a normalcy of deviancy. And then it becomes a systemic issue. And then 10 years later, you have a ship that just ran aground. And you go, well, how did that happen? And you go, well, there. So my quick conversation with, I think it was Mr. Olson, was, hey, I experienced this. I don't know what your rules or regs are and your policies for your company, but you might want to think about it. And I based that on my 35, 45 years of experience running tankers on the West Coast and all the trials and tribulations and mistakes, personal mistakes that I made. And again, it's all about the betterment. It's not about trying to kill the oil industry or throw somebody out of business. I think Maine should be very thankful that they have a local business like Irving who repeatedly comes and schedules to the state of Maine so that you can watch and play a part in the role of their business operations. Whereas Sprague Energy, I think they do a lot of third-party charters. Ship shows up out of nowhere, delivers the cargo, and then leaves. You don't see him again, maybe forever.
Thanks, Mr. Ames.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. And I think Representative Ziegler has one more question.
I unmuted myself. Yes, I do. If we're, and I assume we're going to be going to a work session. I called the Coast Guard to confirm some of the issues yesterday. I would like to make sure that they weren't violating any laws that exist now or any regulations. That said, I'm not unsupportive of perhaps taking another model state in regards to that. And Mr. Ames, you're putting the dirty laundry of the merchant marine out there about manning. People don't realize what's been happening in the U.S. merchant marine, reduction of manning, the dangers that are involved in that, the time schedules. Absolutely, we were working, the Coast Guard has found that we are at 60% efficiency because of the lack of sleep. And that is often a cause of problems. And in case you ever wonder what a black ship means, is that you've lost complete power. And that is not a very pleasant experience. Trust me on that. So if they had lost their power in pilotage waters, that would actually put, as we've seen in the Suez Canal recently, although this is not as narrow. So that's all I want to say is that there's other issues besides just what Mr. Ames brought forth as far as safety in vessels, but that's a much bigger question, and that's on a national level and international level, and people are working towards that. So I look forward to the work session. I look forward to hearing from the Coast Guard in regards to any of the regulations that may have been broken. Thank you.
Great. Is there anyone else in the attendee space that's here to speak neither for nor against or in favor or in opposition to the legislation? If you could please raise your hand and we will bring you over. All right, not seeing any. We'll close the public hearing and we'll schedule a work session at a later date. Thank you so much, Senator Miramont. And thank you, Mr. Ames.
Thank you. Senator, I'll be here for the plastics bill. I'm also have to present a bill in HCIFS, I think after the bill they're doing right now, but I'll be right here.
So will we. Thank you. All right. And with that, I believe we're gonna do a quick language review for LD 489 in advance of our work session starting. So I'm gonna bring in, oh, I forgot to introduce you, Dan and Deirdre and Sabrina earlier. And maybe actually, so Dan Tartikoff and Deirdre Snyder are OPLA analysts and Sabrina Carey is our clerk. And before you get started, Representative Johansson has joined us. So let's offer him an opportunity to introduce himself.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Brenner. My name is Chris Johansson. I represent House District 145, the 18 organized towns in Southern Aroostook. Good morning.
All right, Dan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Sure. So I just emailed each of you a copy of the language review for LD 489. This was a constitutional resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Maine to establish a right to a healthy environment. This was Senator Maxman's proposal. This was a 10-3 vote. This is the majority ought to pass as amended report. And I've noted on that report all the members on each of the reports. The bill language should not look dramatically different from what you reviewed at the work session as proposed by Senator Maxman. The fiscal note that is attached indicates a current biennium cost increase to the general fund. This is in relation to ballot referendums, and so it notes that the Secretary of State's budget includes sufficient funds to accommodate one ballot of average length for the general election in November. But if the number or size of the referendum questions requires production or delivery of a second ballot, then an additional appropriation is required. I'm not incredibly familiar with the appropriation process for that. I'm wondering if this will go on the special appropriations table so that all of the questions that may be on the ballot in November would be considered together. But I didn't have a chance to confirm that with OFPR. But that's a determination that would be made by the Appropriations Committee in conjunction with the Office of Fiscal and Program Review. But that is, as I understand it, the standard fiscal note to go on any constitutional resolution that will go out to the voters. I can answer any questions about that.
Yes, Representative Tucker.
Can't we just tell the Appropriations Committee what to do?
You can try.
Any other comments or questions for Dan? All right. Seeing none, I think we are ready to move into work session. Yes, Representative Tucker. You're muted, Representative.
Before we move on, I would just like to remind everyone that the bill will be delayed as long as we don't sign the divided report. In earlier bills, the Legislative Information Office has sent out an email to everybody asking for us to sign on to the divided report, acknowledging our vote. And it's taken them 2 weeks to get all the signatures. So I would just encourage everyone, if Casey sends you an email to get your signature on a bill like this, that you be prompt in responding so that we don't have to go chasing people down. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tucker, for that reminder. All right, we are going to open up a work session on LD 722, which is a resolve to study the establishment of the Maine Climate Corps. And I believe, Deirdre, you're gonna present the bill analysis, and I think there's a an amendment, just a slight language change.
Yeah, and I just sent my bill analysis out, and it includes the amended version in the analysis that Representative Riley is proposing. So it's in the same document.
Great.
So this resolve does the following. It directs the Maine Commission for Community Service to study and identify short-term projects and tasks in state agencies that could be made into service projects for young citizens of the state. It directs the commission to provide the basis for the establishment of the Maine Climate Corps as proposed in the Maine Climate Council's Climate Action Plan, Maine Won't Wait, a 4-year plan for climate action. It directs the commission to study existing service programs to identify potential hosts for the Maine Climate Corps, along with identifying possible public and private partnerships. And it directs the commission to submit a report based on its findings to this committee by January 31st, 2022. Several people testified in support of the bill at the hearing. Nobody testified in opposition, and 2 people testified neither for nor against. Amendments that were offered in testimony included an amendment by Representative Riley, which is attached to the bill analysis. It would amend the resolve to specify participation in the Maine Climate Corps is available to all residents of the state and not just young residents. And it amends the resolve to require the Maine Commission for Community Service to include in its study how to best structure a Maine Climate Corps program to address shifting and expanding climate challenges that can be addressed by the Corps in the future, and also would allow for long-term service projects. Nick Batista from the Island Institute offered an amendment in testimony that said the resolve can be strengthened by suggesting consultation with the Maine Climate Council, or at least the chairs of the various working groups. And David Gibson from Sierra Club suggested providing a list of, in his attachment, included a list of projects the Maine Climate Corps can engage in, recommended that each program include training that leads to a relevant professional certification, allow for collaboration with other participants working on different projects. Projects should include an element of outreach and market development, and the state should allocate funding to local nonprofit organizations to provide a portion of the matching funds required to host members. At this point, no fiscal impact statement has been received. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything.
Any questions for Deirdre? Nothing. All right. Well, I can start off and tell you guys my thoughts on this bill. I'm very supportive of it. I think it's a great idea. I would love to see the let's see, what do they call themselves? The Commission for Community Service consider including farming, fishing, logging, and green energy job sector in their list of potential sites to place Climate Corps members going forward. And I'm excited to see it happen. So I'm in support. Yes, Representative Tucker. You're muted, Representative.
Perhaps we might lay down a motion ought to pass at this time.
Sounds great.
I move that we pass this bill.
Senator Bennett,
I'll second that motion.
any further discussion?
Is it with or without the amendment, proposed amendment?
Yes, it would be with Mr. Riley's amendment that I just read from Ms. Schneider.
And we're not going to consider the other amendments as proposed by Nick Batista, for example?
Well, perhaps we could ask the sponsor what he thinks. Is the sponsor in the...
The sponsor is not able to join us. He's presenting a bill in another committee today, currently.
Well, then I would agree that this is that we should pass it then as amended by the sponsor to this point. And I would support that.
That is my amendment. I mean, that is my motion. Thank you.
Representative Hanley, did you have something to add?
Yes, everything got answered. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments? Is the committee ready for a vote? All right. So the question is, ought to pass as amended by the sponsor. Do we want to, you ready?
Okay. Senator Brenner,
Yes.
Representative Tucker,
Yes.
Senator Bennett,
Yes.
Representative Hanley,
Yes.
Senator Carney, absent. Representative Bell,
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich, absent. Representative Johansson,
Yes.
Representative O'Connor,
Yes.
Representative Toole, absent. Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
10 yes, 3 absent.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So we'll close the work session on LD 722 and we'll open a work session on LD 226, which is an act to limit the use of hydrofluorocarbons to fight climate change. Representative Tucker.
At the last work session on this bill, a motion ought to pass was laid on the table. And we also got a report from OPLA on the nature of the issue and a summary of the testimony. I think at this time there are discussions going on in regard to related matters that could figure into this bill. It's not quite specific yet. Nothing's been in writing, but there is a chance that we could bring this bill into a bipartisan framework. And I'd like to ask if we could postpone the work session for a week and ask if Mr. Hanley could explain a little bit about the idea and see whether, and we'll see later once it's boiled down and in writing, we'll see whether it fits with the bill or whether it's not germane or whether it is germane or whether it's workable. So I'd like to defer to Mr. Hanley.
Representative Hanley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Tucker. Yes, this bill as it's proposed, I'm initially opposed to it simply because it doesn't fix the problem. You're exchanging one chemical for another, and that doesn't really correct the underlying problem, which is a refrigerant leak issue in the industry. So I appreciate the suggestion of postponing for a week. And one of the ideas that we're proposing is to support the bill as amended, but to add to it the possibility of a fee on all refrigerants imported into the state of Maine that would be directed to the trust, the Maine Energy Efficiency Trust, that would be set aside in a fund to help repair and mitigate all of the issues that were not covered in the bill. That, in other words, if you're not fixing the mechanical problems, you're not fixing any problem at all. If you don't stop the leak of gas, you're moving the goalposts and you're never going to get to the end of it. So that's going to be the proposal. I'm going to ask to meet with Michael Stannard and ask if the trust is capable of taking on this type of responsibility, because it's going to be technical. But I think we need to have a specific recommendation as what to do with the fee, exactly how it gets used, who will be able to benefit from it. So I'm asking for a little bit of time to try to resolve that so we can have a bipartisan bill on this issue. And thank you for that consideration, Representative Tucker. And do you want to entertain a motion to table for a week? Because that's my motion.
Could we term that as a motion to postpone so that we can talk about it? Motion to table seems to shut everybody up because they think they can't talk. It's an incorrect understanding of motion to table, but I like to call it a motion to postpone so that we can continue a collegial talk. All I wanted to add was that I detect here a great deal of good faith on the part of everybody who's concerned. And therefore, I don't think this is intentional delay or anything. I think that this is a real possibility of working something out. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll change the wording of my motion.
Okay.
We'll get rid of the tabling issue. Yeah, and that truly is an issue, and let's try to really get to the point where we're going to change something, not just move something. So I think, the presentation we had from Jim Lebrecht there a while ago was very, very educational for everybody. And working with him and with others, past members of the Maine Trust, the Efficiency Trust, and the current leadership in that trust, I think we might be able to come up with a workable solution. And I appreciate the time that you'll allow to have me do that. And now I'll stop talking, let someone else talk.
We always like to hear from you, Representative Hanley. Representative O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank you for the information that you sent on the Efficiency Maine Trust. That was really interesting. That's one of the things that actually piqued my interest a little bit more to look into. And I just wanted to thank you. And I look forward to working with the committee further on this issue. Thank you.
Representative Dudera.
Thank you. Yeah, this sounds very positive. So we're waiting to hear from you, Representative Hanley, to get more information, and then we'll be taking it up again and discussing, because we're postponing it right now, right?
Yes, I intend to work with the trust and outside interest, namely Jim Lebrecht, to see if we can come up with a positive and workable addition to the current amendment.
Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While I appreciate the sensitivity about language, I am concerned about what posture a motion to postpone actually leaves the bill in with respect to our work session. Under freedom of access rules, we have some obligation to conduct our proceedings in public. And if the work session, if there's any misconstruing that the work session is still open for the next week, and people are talking about the bill, I just worry about that. I think there's nothing wrong with a motion to table. I think that's what's intended. It would be tabling to a point certain, to a day certain, which I just want to make sure we don't, while trying to be courteous, we do something that we might see as unhelpful.
I am going to ask Representative Tucker if he could take over the chair role for a minute. I just need to take care of a child issue. I need to hit my mommy job for a minute, so I'll be right back.
Very well. A dialogue with Senator Bennett could take a considerable time, and many references to Mason's Manual and Robert's Rules of Order. I would rather just move that we table this bill. That's what they would put in the computer regardless. The computer doesn't know the difference. And I just was trying to avoid the fact that if you make a motion to table, you still want to be able to discuss why you're tabling and what's going on. And people like to talk. And I don't like to restrain the committee that way. And so one of the recommended things is, well, you can go with a motion to postpone and then talk about why you're postponing and the substance of, why you're moving, without necessarily having the threat that it will be characterized as a debate of a non-debatable motion. So therefore, I move that we table this bill for 1 week.
Second.
Thank you for that explanation. It makes sense. Thanks.
Representative Ziegler.
I am muted. I couldn't get to my hand quick enough. I wanted a time frame for how long we're tabling it, and you answered it.
Okay.
And do you need a second for your motion to table?
I heard one.
Okay.
On this is a procedural motion. It's not on a substantive issue. So let's do it by show of hands, everybody. Okay. Does everybody want to table? Does anybody want to refuse the table? Anybody opposed to tabling? Okay. That takes care of LD 226. Let's see. What else have we got here? Representative Gramlich, you're here.
Thank you, Representative Tucker. I am Lori Gramlich, and I represent House District 13, which is the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach. Pardon my tardiness. I was presenting a bill in another committee, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
We have as one of the bills for work session today, LD 640. There may be a request to table the work session on that made subsequently. I want to ask Representative Gramlich whether she would object to having Dan give us the summary of the hearing and the Oprah analysis so that we can have that in our possession while we wait for the next time we hear the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't object to that at all. I will just say for the committee's information, I have been working with a number of stakeholders to look at some possible amendments and alternatives to this particular piece of legislation. And happy to hear the analysis that Dan presents, and will then take all of that along with the other information that I'm gathering to present to you an amendment that we can then adequately work at a later date. Thank you very much.
Okay, therefore, before I turn this over to Dan, I'd just like to make a little personal comment. I prefer not to be called Mr. Chair because it sounds like I'm a character in Pee-wee's Playhouse. And you can just call me Representative Tucker, and I would be happy with that.
Duly noted, Representative Tucker.
Mr. Tartikoff.
Thank you. So I sent out an email that contained a bill analysis for LD 640, as well as two other attachments. One are supplemental comments from Poland Spring that are in response to questions posed or requests made at the hearing. And the other are supplemental comments from the Maine Beverage Association that are in response to questions posed or requests made at the hearing. There was questions asked of both of those entities, and they both submitted some supplemental comments addressing those. The Maine Beverage Association also submitted I think it was a pet life cycle analysis that was submitted in the same manner as any other testimony. So it will be available to you on the electronic LD file, but I was worried about it slowing down the email going out because it was over 100 pages long, the analysis. So if you want, I can send that separately to any of you later, but I did not include that, but the Maine Beverage Association provided that as well. So LD 640 is, as you know, Representative Gramlich's bill, an act to ban single-serving disposable plastic water bottles. It prohibits the sale, offering for sale, and distribution for promotional purposes of uncarbonated, unflavored drinking water in containers of 1 liter or less that are made of plastic, except for the immediate preservation of public health or safety during an event for which a governor's state of emergency proclamation has been issued. I've noted in my analysis those entities that testified in favor of, in opposition to, and neither for nor against the bill. Testimony at the hearing suggested that no US states have adopted a similar ban on plastic water bottles, although I guess Massachusetts is considering adopting one this year, and there are in fact a number of municipalities and colleges or universities that have adopted more localized bans. There was some disagreement among individuals at the hearing regarding a claim that harmful microplastics or plastic toxins can be ingested as a result of consuming bottled water. Evidence to support each of those positions was requested by committee members. Multiple individuals questioned why the bill singles out unflavored, uncarbonated water in plastic bottles of 1 liter or less, when the same plastic bottles are used to contain a variety of other drinks that are not prohibited under the bill. There was testimony submitted by the University of Maine system that expressed concern over the scope of the definition of plastic used in the bill and the impact that that prohibition might have on ongoing research activities into bio-based alternatives to petroleum-derived materials at the University of Maine System's Forest Bioproducts Research Institute. Multiple individuals suggested that either in addition to or instead of the bill, the proposal should be used to direct state government to lead by example and promote the use of tap water over bottled water by increasing access to water filling stations and the availability of reusable bottles. The Conservation Law Foundation proposed a phased-in approach to the prohibition, first applying it to state government, then municipal governments, and then statewide to all actors. There were other individuals that proposed similar phased-in approaches or a delay of the effective date to the sales prohibition. We don't have any fiscal information on the bill yet, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have that I'm able to answer.
Okay. Representative Gramlich will be asking that we table the bill. Does anybody feel the need to make any comments now before we table the bill? Okay, any questions? Senator Bennett, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I also noted that Dan provided a response from Poland Spring with the materials. And I had asked, it was in response to a number of the questions that had been arose and some of the information requests. And the very end of it, of the memo from Poland Spring, has an answer, I think, largely to a question I asked. It's lettered 5, continuation of Poland Spring leadership in sustainable packaging. I'd raised the question because, as we know, there's been a significant transaction that has just been consummated regarding the sale of the Nestle Waters North America assets, including Poland Spring, to a new group of investors. It seems to be a new entity, and as of yesterday, they announced they had called themselves the Blue Triton Brands. And I this morning sent a letter to the Blue Triton Brands because I read this response the other day, and it constitutes what I would consider happy green talk, it's a there's a lot of nice words there, but I think people in my district in Western Maine, where we have some of the springs that Poland Spring actually uses, and as well as their large aquifer, are very concerned about this transaction, and particularly the commitment to sustainability, which underlies this bill, actually, I think, a large part of it. So I think it's relevant to the discussion here today. And I wanted to draw the committee's attention to the fact that I've written this letter. As of this morning, I also provided a copy of the letter to all of the committee members, laying out the questions, and some of which do relate, I think, to the bill before us. In particular, let me pull up the letter. In particular, the new owners, in addition to the language that was in the memo, in their press release yesterday, said that, and I'll quote the CEO, "We have all become increasingly aware of how critical our products and the rapidly evolving innovations are to human wellness in our communities. We proudly recognize that communities of today and generations to come depend on our company to be a good neighbor." I had specific questions about the use of the word innovations, which I think relates to this bill, because under Nestle's leadership, I think Poland Spring has taken a leading role among beverage producers globally in sustainable practices. The concern I hear from my constituents is, relating to this word innovations. Well, what rapidly evolving innovations are underway or planned for Poland Spring? Do these innovations relate to the bottling operations, in particular the use of the materials of the bottles? And what other effects might these innovations have on the springs in Maine or the communities around them? There's a variety of other questions I've asked in my letter, but I did want to flag that for the committee's attention, because I do think it's relevant to the question of bottled water in Maine, and particularly this storied and iconic brand that is really is synonymous in many ways with Maine's own brand in terms of the quality of our natural resources and the longevity of the feeling toward those resources and how it relates to people who are our constituents. So I just wanted to flag that. I see that Peter DePasquale is in the audience group, as well as Andrea Maker, who does some lobbying work for the company. And if there's no need, if they don't wish to at this time, but I wanted to see, with your indulgence, Representative Tucker, if it would be acceptable to invite them to answer those parts of my questions, or just make any statement having raised this point.
I would turn down that request because who knows how this bill might take twists and turns in the future, and so the comments may become irrelevant. And so I will ask if Representative Gramlich has a motion.
I do, Representative Tucker, and I just, before I enter my motion, I just had a question for Senator Bennett. Did I hear you say, Senator, that you had crafted a letter that you had given copy to committee members? I am not seeing it, and I would very much like to. I think you raised some fairly provocative questions, bigger picture, perhaps even beyond this bill, that I would love to have an opportunity to review. So that was one, and then two, I'd like to make a motion to table this bill.
Is there a second? Okay, it's a procedural motion. If nobody asks for a roll call, we'll do it by a show of hands. How many wish to table the motion, table the bill? Are there any persons who wish not to table? Okay, that concludes today's discussion of LD 640, and I turn over the gavel back to Senator Brenner.
Yes, Dan.
Very quickly, in response to Representative Gramlich's question, Senator Bennett did send out that letter at 10:29 this morning. It went out to the committee. So if you search in your inbox, you should be able to find it. It came from Senator Bennett.
Thank you very much, Dan. I will look for that, and thank you, Senator Bennett.
And Representative Tucker, I enjoyed having you take over, and I'm appreciative of your expertise. Thank you.
Well, please let's not get used to it.
Okay, so now we'll open up a work session on LD 602, an act to prevent pollution from single-use plastic straws, splash sticks, and beverage lid plugs. And I believe, Dan, this is one that you're going to walk us through, correct?
This is actually the second work session on the bill. So I already presented an analysis last time. Yesterday, I emailed out an amendment to the committee, and I just, so that it's at the top of your inboxes, I just sent it out again with some explanation as well. This was the result of some stakeholder discussions that I was not a part of until the end. Senator Meermont is here and I believe can provide more context for the amendment. But if or when you want me to, I can answer questions about it or walk you through it.
Does anyone have questions for the amendment, about the amendment? I think it actually would be helpful to walk through it. There's a handful of changes.
Sure. So I don't want to go line by line because I think that would be sort of tedious. Mm-hmm. But suffice to say, the sort of high level changes are the bill had a prohibition on the manufacturing of this single-use plastic beverageware. That is still in the bill as amended. It had a prohibition on the sale or distribution of the single-use plastic beverageware. That is gone in its entirety. It had a fee requirement for the provision of non-plastic single-use beverageware. That 5-cent fee is gone entirely. The bill has been rewritten so that beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending at the end of 2022, in that period of 1 year, the food establishments and eating establishments will be able, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Will be able to provide single-use plastic or non-plastic beverageware to a customer upon request only. So it's essentially a straw by request policy for a period of 1 year. And then beginning January 1st, 2023 and going forward, food establishments and eating establishments cannot provide under any circumstances single-use beverageware made of plastic. And they also retain the by request policy going forward. So from 1/1/2022 to the end of 2022, it's straws of any kind by request only. And then January 1st, 2023, going forward, it's only non-plastic straws and only by request. So there's also a change to the definition of plastic. This definition was modeled off of the definition of plastic that's under Vermont's single-use law. Their law covers more than just straws, but it does cover straws. And so this is a modified version of that definition of plastic. It still does include as a plastic those bio-based plastics that were discussed at the public hearing and at the work session. There is also a preemption provision that was added to the bill to preempt any local regulations that are inconsistent with the state law. And I will note that there was a little bit of a tweak to the exclusion in the bill for the provision of single-use beverageware by nursing homes, medical facilities, or hospitals. And the net effect of that is if you have a hospital cafeteria, for example, they would be subject to the prohibition, but the hospital could still provide plastic straws, if you will, to patients in their rooms. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you have any questions about the process or whether there was agreement among the stakeholders, Senator Bennett would be, or, I'm sorry, Senator Mearmount would be much more suited to answer those.
Representative Dudera.
Thank you, Senator Brenner. Thank you, Dan, for that analysis. And I certainly appreciate Senator Mearmount and the work that he's done and the stakeholders have done. This is really looking like something that I would like to support. My question is about disabled folks. And I know you mentioned hospital settings, but that was a discussion that we had in the public hearing. And so, Dan, I just wonder if you can just address that, folks that need to use straws.
I had a conversation with Melissa Gates from Surfrider Foundation, who I understand was one of the major backers of this proposal, is one of the major backers. And I don't want to misconstrue what she told me, but my understanding is that there did not need to be an explicit provision in the bill to address concerns of disabled persons.
Okay, and the fact that we're not charging a fee for somebody to get a straw, I think probably gets at that too. So thank you.
Any additional comments or questions? Yes, Representative Booker.
In order to get things moving, I would propose that I will move ought to pass on LD 602 as amended in Mr. Mearmout's amendment that was just described in detail by Mr. Tartikoff. In understanding that we just got it today, I would promise on if there is any request to reconsider, I would be glad to make the motion to reconsider later if somebody thinks that this vote was taken in haste or without enough discussion, but I'd like to get it started. So there's my motion.
I'll second it.
Second.
Representative O'Connor.
Thank you, Senator. So I guess I had a question with the amendment. I didn't see in it, I know the biodegradable product that was made through WinCup. Was there an exemption in that for WinCut? Because it seems to me like that company is actually headed in the right direction.
Yeah, Senator Miramont was shaking his head, and my understanding is there wasn't consensus among the stakeholder group, but I was directed to not include any exemptions. So the definition of plastic in the amendment, as in the bill, would include those biopolymers, those bio-based plastics. So they would be prohibited.
So a follow-up, if I may?
Yes, please go right ahead.
So I'm also really concerned. It seems like in all these really difficult times, you keep putting more and more pressure on the restaurant industries to comply with these things. And I see that you extended it a little bit further out, the dates, but it still is a compliance issue. And when you're asking people to voluntarily do a job, but putting it into a law, so to speak, who enforces that? How do you make sure that that's done? Are there penalties assessed for that? Thank you.
Representative Dudera.
Thank you. Excuse me. I was wondering about the definition of plastic, since this is a new one. We're using Vermont's definition, I understand. And I wondered if maybe that is aligning with other definitions we've got in other statute. And I wondered if maybe we should hear from DEP on that.
That would be an option. Also, perhaps maybe Senator Miramont, as the sponsor, could answer for us his thoughts around bioplastics.
And thank you, Senator and committee. The damage done by the plastic, no matter how it's formulated, initially is that it kills species when it washes down to the ocean and in the rivers. And as it breaks down, smaller organisms eat it as well. So you can say that it eventually breaks down. It does a lot of killing on the way. So there was no interest in taking away the definition to include bioplastics. It's sort of like talking about clean coal. And we've got some buzzwords that make it sound like, well, great, this transition. Transition is we're so far behind on ocean warming, acidification, other things that I cannot let things still go on that we have a ability to stop. That's that one. We did, maybe I didn't talk about it enough. We reached out to the Disability Maine. I had conversation with them. We made some changes, and during the stakeholder group, we all gave a little. It was like one of those successful negotiations where nobody was happy at the end. And I exaggerate because I was happy that all these folks representing trade groups and everything else thought we had done something that everybody could live with, if not perfectly. Also, we talked to over 100 restaurants about how hard this would be for restaurants. Many that we talked to are already doing it. The representative of the restaurant business said that, well, there were some that weren't. Well, of course, there's always some that weren't doing it, some that don't want to have to make a change. We will make it as easy as possible, hence the transition time, but we also weren't going to let towns start preempting and allowing plastic in certain ways because we have to cut the destruction. There might have been one more piece to the question I heard. I'm sorry, but keeping it short might be better. Did I miss something?
No, all set. Yes, Representative Tucker.
Yes, I have a preference for direct testimony rather than hearsay. And so I would like to hear from Mr. Greg Dugal, who represents the restaurants.
All right, Sabrina, if we could bring
I'd
Mr.
like to ask
Dugal.
him a question.
We'll bring Mr. Dugal over for a few questions. And then I do believe Representative Dudera was hoping that DEP could come over as well. Welcome, Mr. Dugal.
Mr.
Thank you,
Dugal.
Senator. Thank you, Representative Tucker.
Good morning. We've heard some discussion here about what restaurants think. If you could identify yourself for the record and then address the questions that have come up in our work session here and express your feelings and, well, express the position of your association about this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tucker. My name is Greg Dougal, and I represent Hospitality Maine. And there, you know, as there are in many of these situations, there are a lot of opinions on how things should be and how they should work. There are certainly people that share the opinion of the original bill, and there are other people that don't think this should occur at all. I did get a lot of feedback, not as much before the public hearing, honestly, but since then from people. You know, the two pieces, and I think Senator Miramont was very gracious in his approach that not everybody liked everything. And the two things that I had really pushed that I felt were not included in the final amendment was the marine degradable items, the PHA or bioresins, whatever you would like to call them. We do have a lot of people that are using those. They're not part of the Portland ordinance, but I spoke with several people there that actually are using them because they think it's an appropriate item to use. So there's a lot of people that are using the corn-based products and with the thought process that they're doing the right thing. So I did hear a lot of that. The other piece that I made plain, I think, in both the stakeholders group and in this committee was how unworkable removing the self-serve stations are going to be from any high volume place because everything's going to have to come from behind the counter. I will say preemption, you know, no fee and a delay for a year, which will be very helpful, were excellent byproducts from our discussions. So I just participated as best as I can, referring to the people that I have spoken to within our association. And I guess that's probably all I have to add.
Could you address the enforcement question? Could you address the enforcement question? How are these things ordinarily enforced and regulated against restaurants?
My experience has been that it's generally on a complaint-driven basis. Honestly, I don't know who would be complained to in this particular instance. In the city of Portland is the city manager's office that receives the complaint. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure that it's been addressed. It would be difficult, I will tell you that, because there were restrictions that, I mean, not that it's right, but there were restrictions imposed by COVID-19 regulations that people didn't adhere to either. And occasionally they would be, you know, caught and told to change, but not everybody was. So it won't be easy, but I'm sure somebody has a plan for it. I don't.
Thank you very much. Those are the only questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative O'Connor.
Thank you, Senator. So I guess my question is that I want to know who the stakeholders were involved, because I read a lengthy presentation by WinCup and about their biodegradable products that I saw how they degraded in the oceans as well as in landfill. And I thought it was really interesting and a place that we should actually be turning to mitigate some of these damages. But I would appreciate it greatly if Vicki O'Rourke from WinCup could be brought into this discussion, because I'm not sure if they were part of the stakeholder group. Thank you.
My understanding, Senator Miramont, perhaps you can correct me, I don't believe WinCup was at your stakeholder meeting.
That's correct. That was one I never intended to waver on. I mean, you always have to bend if you absolutely must, but part of bringing this bill was just seeing the damage to the oceans and rivers and species and ultimately us. So it never occurred to me to include them. Thank you.
I want to just chime in for a second about the bioplastics and their potential for marine biodegradability. When you read the studies, they're done when you look at the amount of time it takes for the straw to break down, the conditions under which it was tested, it's 30 degrees Celsius, which is like 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not our oceans. So under those conditions, they do break down, but in a relatively timely manner. But it's just, that's not the ocean that we engage with here in Maine. So that didn't feel secure enough for me to feel like biodegradability was going to happen with bioplastics in our oceans. So I'm not in favor of allowing the bioplastics in our straw products in this particular bill. Senator Bennett.
I think that Representative O'Connor is still has questions along this line that she may want to pursue. I see her hand up.
Representative O'Connor, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I just, like I said before, I'd like a briefer description from the people who actually produced the studies for this, and to actually, because they weren't invited as a stakeholder and they do have quite a bit to lose here, I think it would be appropriate to bring them into the discussion to explain their position. It was not heard throughout the stakeholder group when they indeed are a stakeholder with so much to lose. Thank you.
So you would like WinCup to come in so you can ask them some questions? Is that what you're requesting?
I would like Vicki O'Rourke to come in and give a brief explanation of how they break down briefly and why they should have been exempted. Thank you.
Okay.
And why they weren't invited to the stakeholder group.
Okay, let's bring her in. One thing I will point out is I did request some information from them about the studies that were used. And so that Dan did provide that for everyone in our email. So we can resend that along too if it's helpful. But let's go ahead and bring Ms. O'Rourke in.
Okay.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Brenner. Thank you to Representative O'Connor. Senator Brenner, I apologize, you cut out as I was going through the portal. You said you had provided something. I just want to make sure I'm fully aware of what was provided, if you wouldn't mind.
I was commenting on what you had provided to us from my request for the work session.
Okay. Thank you very much. And good morning, committee members. Just to recap, we had provided a pretty lengthy deck of about 30 pages that provides a summary of both decades of university research on PHAs, as well as a pretty specific summary on our actual testing. I hope that you've all had an opportunity to look at it. I don't know if you allow screen sharing. I am happy to do so. There are some pretty helpful pictures of test results, because I think in this case, a picture can really communicate much better than what I will try to explain. Jumping right just to the concerns that have been raised thus far, Senator Brenner, you raise a good point about, the temperature of the conditions in these lab tests. There's a natural tension here. We have to have reliable, competent scientific evidence to back up our claims. It has to be something that can be replicated. There needs to be a benchmark. And that's why we have to rely on these lab tests. But they are standards developed by independent standard setting bodies. You then make the jump, well, what does that mean for the real world? And that's what scientists are currently trying to work on. And if you actually flip to the summary of the University of Queensland study that's included in the deck, that's exactly what the professors at that university tried to do, to make the jump from test conditions to real world. And they actually concluded that a PHA straw, they used some extrapolation, would degrade in marine conditions somewhere between 3.5 and 8.5 months. If you look at the photos that we've provided in our deck, we have pictures of the ongoing marine biodegradation test of our straw from start to finish. We're at 28 weeks, and a 2 millimeter sieve has been used to sieve out the remaining pieces of the straw. And if you look at that 28-week photo, there's not much left. But there's multiple components to our testing that was done. We did first biodegradation, which really answers the question of, is this material inherently biodegradable? And what do I mean when I say biodegradation? Biodegradation is a biological process in which a material is consumed and used as energy in a food source. It should result in nothing more than CO2, water, and biomass. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about a breakdown or just a breaking apart that will result in microplastics. Biodegradation doesn't result in microplastics. Second, our bit of testing was on disintegration. Okay, you've shown that your product is inherently biodegradable, which our testing has, but how quickly does it go away? How quickly does it disintegrate? And where we are in the photographic evidence that we've provided in the deck is at that 28-week point, where you can see that there's all but the smallest bits remaining, and that test is ongoing, and we fully expect that it will go away. After we completed those tests, we took the residual water after a biodegradation test, and we did further analysis on that residual water because we really wanted to drive home the point of making sure that there was nothing harmful left, no microplastics. And we did Raman spectroscopy and NMR, spectroscopy on that remaining residual water. These are highly sensitive techniques that are used mostly for quality control purposes by pharma companies and by polymer companies to make sure there's nothing foreign ingredients in their products or to identify foreign ingredients. And these tests both showed that there was no residual straw resin remaining in our products. So that's our testing. The deck is there. I encourage you to look at it. Just to answer a few other things that have been raised, the new definition of plastic in the bill, it may track Vermont's definition, but I want the committee to clearly understand Vermont's straws upon request law is a true straws upon request law. So you may still request and get a plastic straw. I think there's some confusion about that, but I want to point that out. Second, we would just say that a product ban is a pretty drastic measure, and we think it should be as targeted and as tactical as possible. Biopolymers are new. We have to, educate ourselves and have a complete understanding of them. I think that if you look at the evolution here and the innovation, we had traditional fossil fuel-based plastics for decades. And then probably 5 or 10 years ago, we all started to see PLA compostable products in airports and places. That was the next step. PHAs are now the new generation. But if we had 5 or 10 years ago banned PLA, we might never have gotten to PHA. And I want to also be very clear that there is a difference from PLA to PHAs. PLA is only compostable in an industrial composting facility. PHA simply, has so many more end-of-life options. And you don't have to trust us. You can read the university studies. I also provided the 3 actual studies that I cite in my deck, provided complete copies to the committee. So you can see PHAs are just highly degradable. The last point I think I would encourage the committee to think about is some natural alternatives are allowed. And are we really considering what the impact of those natural alternatives might be? A bamboo straw is allowed. Well, what's going to happen if a bamboo straw mistakenly makes its way into the ocean? Does it still have the potential to harm marine life? Yes, I think it does. It's not going to break down. You can look at websites for manufacturers of bamboo straws. They're just industrially compostable. You can look at websites for manufacturers of bamboo toothbrushes. And they will tell you that it takes years for those bamboo toothbrushes to go away. Potentially, a natural product like that, I think, has more potential than our product to do damage. We're not saying that this is the end all be all. There's going to have to be a multifaceted approach to solving this problem, but this is the beginning and it's a necessary first step. So we're asking that you allow this technology to evolve because this is just the first step. We've started with straws, but it will expand into other product applications. And that's important and it's necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. O'Rourke. Representative O'Connor, did you have a follow-up at all, or are you feeling?
No, that was very interesting. Thank you for that information. I do have other questions, but they're not related to Ms. O'Rourke. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Bennett, did you have a question you wanted to bring up?
For Mr. Dougal, if
Okay.
thank you.
Representative Bloom, did you have a question for Ms. O'Rourke?
No, just really a comment on compostability. That we really need to have, in order to, anything that's compostable now with the technology that we have, it needs industrial compostability. And that's something that until we have that, we're just creating more garbage. And that I feel very strongly about. We have to investigate doing better composting in the state in order to be able to take these replacements. But until we do, it's just adds to the mess.
All right. Thank you, Representative Bloom. Senator Bennett has a question for Mr. Dougal.
Yes, and before I pose the question, I just want to say to Senator Miramont, I applaud you for your leadership in taking a bill which I think I felt had some significant flaws in it, and made it better and more inclusive, and I think more practical for people. And I also particularly like the preemption piece, because I do think we tend to get, a patchwork quilt of regulations, and it gets very confusing to people, our residents as well as our businesses, as to which rules they're under, with something which to some people might be considered minor, but is in it overall a very important matter for our environment. So having said that, I'd like to ask Mr. Dougal, and I appreciate that your responses earlier.
Sorry, Senator, I had to present a bill in another committee, but I'm back.
Okay, thank you, Senator Miramont. I was just praising you, so I'll do that later on a private time. I wanted to ask Mr. Dougal if you said that you were particularly gratified by the changes in the timelines in the amendment. I want to just state clearly that restaurants during the last year have been hammered, and I have zero interest in contributing to any difficulties that restaurants are going to be facing going forward here, in the short term. I mean, I think we can all absorb policy changes given sufficient time, right? And but given the horrors of the last year and the impact specifically on our restaurants, I wanted to ask you, are these, you said you like these new, the extended deadlines from the original bill, but are they long enough? Would it be more helpful, and how much more helpful would it be if we extended these deadlines out another year, let's say? Have you given any of that a thought?
Oh, absolutely, Senator Bennett. As a matter of fact, and I think Senator Miramont would attest to this, our preference for the PHA and our preference for keeping the self-serve stations were things that I did bring forth in the stakeholders meeting, and they were summarily dismissed. I understand why, I get it, but, I was happy to be a part of the process. I also asked for exactly what you just said, and that also was dismissed. It would be helpful if we had, I was hoping that we could have a year for people to get used to what they need to do, get the education out, then a year of plastic and alternative, and then, obviously the plastic ban would occur at that point. That is what I requested in the stakeholders group, but I did not receive that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a question for you, Mr. Dougal. Can you speak to the restaurants in Portland who experienced the ban go into place during the pandemic and what their feedback has been?
Sorry, I guess I didn't understand that, Senator Brennan. Excuse me.
Do you have any comment? Did you receive any comments from any of the restaurants in Portland who experienced the ban go into place during the middle of the pandemic.
I'm sorry, I didn't connect the ban being the one in Portland. So I think I even said in my testimony, this isn't a cut and dried issue. There are people on both sides of this issue, and I said that earlier as well. So I did hear from people from Portland, as a matter of fact, some people that use the WinCup product, that they were not in favor of any of this. And I heard from people that said that the ban went into effect and everything worked just fine for them. And I heard other people that said that they felt that this was an appropriate step in other parts of the state, and also people that think this is not a very good idea at all. So there's no question that there's many sides to this story, and that would probably be, and I have spoken to a lot of people in Portland. As a matter of fact, most of the people that are using the corn straws, or the corn-based straws or the PHA straws, are those people from the city of Portland. Now, I guess I'm not going to say who they are because they could be in trouble for that, but they're still out there using them for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative O'Connor.
Thank you again, Senator. So another question that I had perhaps for Senator Miramont or to Mr. DeGaulle. I was also thinking about convenience stores, and I know that they gave testimony. The name was NECSEMA is where we got the testimony from, the convenience store operations, and going into convenience stores regularly and seeing how they're set up. I was wondering, I don't believe that they were in the stakeholder group as well, but they also have a lot to lose. Is there a reason why they weren't included?
Senator Miramont.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. This is about changing behavior, and what we found where it's already been changed, where in Vermont or in Portland, is that when you start to just put them aside, people know they can still get a product and they'll ask, and they just don't take it and throw away if it's given to them, which is, I'm still watching it happen every day. So that was the big thing there. It's not that you can only have so many people in there in the group to work on this, and they're represented by folks like Mr. DeGaulle and the other folks that were there. And I just want to make sure, Mr. DeGaulle and I have been working together for 20 years, and I have never summarily dismissed his ideas. I mostly disagree with him, but I heard them and we talked about them and then we dismissed them. No. What he brought was, well, he's got restaurants he represents that think this way, because we'd already talked to a lot of them and we talked to some of the others. So we knew that because we did our work. And I couldn't think of everyone to bring, but we want to change that behavior. I think they've proven that like 70% of the folks don't care about the straw, but it's put in their hand and a lot of times it's thrown away, because then, especially because of COVID, nobody wants anything touched and then put back. So it's gotten worse. And so we need a new system. And that may not have answered anything. I'm sorry.
Representative O'Connor, did you have a follow-up?
Thank you. It didn't really answer my question. I am concerned about those operations. So thank you.
All right. Any additional comments, questions, thoughts from the committee? Are we ready for a vote? All right. The motion on the, yes, Senator Bennett.
Thank you. Since you asked the question, I am not ready for a vote. I would really, I want to support this bill, but I have some concerns about the deadlines, et cetera. And I would, if the committee wants to proceed to a vote, that's, you're right, but I am concerned about some aspects of it. Thank you.
Are you looking for an amendment to the deadlines?
Yeah, that is one thing that I'd like to contemplate, and maybe I haven't been completely focused on the issue of the self-serve aspect of it, and I don't know how, if that could be accommodated at all. It doesn't seem like it could comfortably fit into the bill, but I don't have enough information about that. I guess that I'd like to think about that some more too.
Any other comments? Yes, Representative Dudera.
Thank you. I guess I'm just not clear what Senator Bennett means when he's talking about the self-serve. Are you talking about self-serve restaurants, or are you talking about people getting things themselves when they get coffees and whatnot?
If I may, yeah, that's what I was talking about, the latter. You know, and I don't know whether some accommodation can be made in that area anyway, but I as I said, I think we should very carefully consider anything that's going to impact our struggling restaurant industry. And I have a bit of a bias to thinking about all these people that invested their lives and their treasure into these small businesses, and they're spread out all across Maine, and they've been hit hard enough. And I really want to get more comfort that whatever we pass with this bill is absorbable by them, because I do think that they end up being the focus of this bill, right? The amendment has taken everything else off, you know, which might actually be more impactful for the problem, like the grocery stores and the juice containers, and they all have, you know, people that you know, have reasons for not wanting to pass it. So we narrow the focus onto this one area. And I understand some merits in doing that too, because it's sort of like not a choice for a customer when they go into a restaurant. They have to, you know, take what the restaurant's giving them. And so I understand that, but it's, I just really don't want them to be the you know, bearing all the burden of this bill without the ability to absorb it.
Representative Ziegler.
So I sit here a little confused. Senator, do you want to table the bill? Is that what you're asking for? Or do you want to work this out today in this work session?
May I, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Either way, I mean, I honestly, I'm happy to, I am concerned about like getting through this, the massive legislation we have. So we have to, I understand we have to move, and I appreciate the chair's leadership in pushing that way. If we could deal with it today, that's great. If we can't, then I'd appreciate a couple more days to think about this and to think about solutions that would work better for me.
Can I, that's a little bit of equivocating, but so what you're saying is you do want to table it, then do you want to put that motion out?
I'm happy to hear that motion. If somebody wants to make it, I feel like I might have debated it, but I'm not sure.
Point of order.
Before you put that motion out, let's see what Representative Dudera has on her mind.
Point of order.
Yes.
Isn't there a motion already on the floor now? Ought to pass.
I believe so.
Then we cannot consider another motion while there's one before us. Is that correct?
I think we could consider a motion to table with a motion on the floor, I believe, if that were to be the direction we go in. But I was asking Senator Bennett if he could not put that on the floor just quite yet, and we could have a few more minutes for discussion. Is that okay? Okay.
And it's great with me too, because I really would appreciate hearing the rest of the committee and how they're thinking. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, you're calling on me. Thank you, Senator. Since we are kind of revisiting some issues, then I would like to hear from Paula Clark at DEP about the plastic definition in this bill, since I understand, a bit of a new one for us here in Maine, if that's okay.
Ms. Clark, are you able to join us? Welcome. Did you hear the question?
I did. Thank you. Good morning, Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker. The definition of plastic that is in the amendment was suggested by DEP. It's based on the Vermont definition. The reason that we had suggested that was for clarity primarily. It is different than the definition that exists in statute that is within the plastic bag ban, for instance. But in thinking about this, it seemed important to us that, especially when we're talking about implementing a straw ban, that definition of plastic be crystal clear, because there are choices to be made. With the plastic bag ban, I don't think there's ever been a question about whether or not what we're dealing with is a plastic bag. Those options are not there, and that debate has not occurred. But we thought that was a particularly important issue with the straw ban. And the definition that was initially put forward was complex enough that we were concerned that there would be the need for a lot of interpretation around that. So the Vermont definition seemed much clearer to us and would be easier for people to understand as they're trying to make appropriate choices around it. The other thing I could offer, if it's agreeable to you, is just a comment about the enforcement issue that came up earlier.
Yes, please.
This bill would become part of Title 38, which is within the department's purview. And so we would be responsible for any compliance or enforcement work with respect to the bill. If the department was administering this, we would look at violations of this statute in the same way that we would look at any other enforcement matter that comes before us. Typically, the department strives to provide education, voluntary compliance. That's typically the way we would approach this. So it would be very similar to the way that we have approached the plastic bag law. And, that has involved a lot of education. Although it hasn't taken effect yet, I certainly, believe that when compliance issues do arise, we're going to be relying very heavily on encouraging voluntary compliance and on education around it. And straws are very similar to that.
Thank you. Representative Dudera, did you have any follow-up comments? Okay.
No,
Representative Tucker, you had your hand up, but you've taken it down.
Yes, I simply wanted to remind other committee members that I am volunteering to agree to a motion to reconsider should someone decide to change their mind about today's vote. If I should happen to be on the prevailing side.
Anybody else have anything they want to make sure that they add to the conversation? Senator Bennett?
Thank you. I guess if we're forcing a vote today, then I would suggest that I would feel comfortable with extending the dates out by 1 year, both the 2022 and the 2023 out, and add a year to each.
I would support that friendly amendment. Representative Dudera?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that too, because, again, we know the restaurants, I've got many in my district, and, the folks in Portland may have had a little head start getting used to that, but we're not all in Portland. And I think having a little bit more time, we're on the right path. I mean, I'd love to see it happen yesterday. Especially with those little splash stick things, which drive me crazy. But I am sensitive to what businesses have gone through. So I think that, this could perhaps be another good compromise, along with all the compromises that Senator Miremont's already made.
If I just,
Yes, Representative Tucker.
I was simply going to ask if Senator Bennett could restate those dates so that I could incorporate it onto the pending motion.
let me pull up the document. I'm not on mute, right?
You're not on mute.
I can't see myself, so All right, so the dates would be, I guess it's in now section or paragraph 3, be December 31st. So it would change the dates in A, B, and C by adding 1 year to each of those.
Dan, do you have that straight?
And
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that sufficient for your drafting purposes?
Yes. The only question I would ask is the preemption provision was tied to the implementation of the plastic ban in 2023. I imagine it would make sense to push that out 1 year as well. I'm seeing some head nods. Okay.
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
And I also want to say thank you to Representative Tucker for your willingness to reconsider if it's suggested by further learning here before the bill escapes the committee entirely.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, ought to pass as amended with an additional friendly amendment. Is the committee ready for a vote? Okay. Sabrina, we're ready for you.
All right. Senator Brenner,
Yes.
Representative Tucker,
Yes.
Senator Bennett,
Yes.
Representative Hanley,
No.
Senator Carney, absent. Representative Bell,
Yes.
Representative Bloom,
Yes.
Representative Dudera,
Yes.
Representative Gramlich, absent. Representative Johansson,
No.
Representative O'Connor,
No.
Representative Toole, absent. Representative Ziegler,
Yes.
7 yes, 3 no, minority report to be decided, and 3 absent.
All right. Did Representative O'Connor or Hanley or Johansson, did you all have a minority report?
Ought not to
Yes,
pass.
ought not to pass.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Senator Miramont.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I think I came back in and thought it was a pause and probably spoke on top of Senator Bennett, and I apologize. I hope I'll say I'll never let it happen again. But thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. And with that, I believe we end our work session on LD 602. And that brings us to, yes, Representative Ziegler.
Before, I assume we're going to break for lunch. I can't access the confirmation information on my computer. I was wondering if anybody else had that problem.
Any other struggles with the confirmation information? Maybe Sabrina or Dan could shoot it back over to you in advance of 1 o'clock. If not, if you don't see it, Representative Ziegler, send me a note and I can send it over to you. Yes.
Sorry, did you just, for clarification, did you just want the packets? There was a number of pieces of testimony that Sabrina's been sending out in as she gets them.
I was looking at the confirmation hearing with the packet on the computer, which comes down. And I also looked at the information that we're supposed to have. So just send it. I'll look at it and decide what I want to digest or not. Thank you, Dan.
All right. And with that, I believe we will go ahead and take a lunch break until 1 o'clock and we'll reconvene for confirmation hearings. And I hope you all enjoy a delicious lunch. Thank you.
All right, what time did she say?
Sorry, they're at 1.
1, okay, thank you.
Whew. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry for the delay. I had to restart my computer. Seems as if we're ready to go. And just see. I think we'll begin first with the nomination for Ms. Horn, and then we'll do Mr. Totko in that order. All right. This is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Environment and Natural Resources for the purpose of considering the nomination by the governor of Ms. Samantha Horn of Reedfield for the appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. Under the law and joint rules of the legislature, this committee is required to hold this public hearing and to recommend confirmation or denial of the nominee by majority vote of the committee members present and voting. As chairs of the committee, we will then send written notice of the committee's recommendation to the President of the Senate. The committee will hear testimony from and have an opportunity to question the governor or her representative, the nominee, and any other persons present who wish to speak for or against the nomination. This meeting is currently being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel. This means that anyone who is a participant in the meeting via Zoom can be seen and also heard if their microphone is unmuted. People testifying cannot be seen or heard until they are called upon to speak. This meeting will be recorded and available to view on the committee's YouTube channel soon after the meeting has concluded. Pursuant to Title III, Section 157 of the Maine statutes, which requires that there be an affirmative motion to recommend confirmation of the nominee, the chair recognizes one of our committee members for the purposes of making such a motion. Would one of you all like to make a motion? Yes, Representative Dudera.
Yes, I move that the nominee be in the position. I should get the complete wording here. Let me get it.
Would you like to move that the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources recommend confirmation of Samantha Horn of Reedfield for appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board?
Yes, Ms. Horn for the Outdoor Fund Board. Thank you very much, Senator Brenner.
You're so welcome. All right. And the chair now recognizes Ms. Camuso? No, from the governor's office?
Thank you very much, Representative Brenner. I do believe Melissa O'Neill Lowe will be representing.
Wonderful. My apologies, Ms. O'Neill Lowe. Welcome.
No problem. Thank you, Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, and esteemed members of the Joint Standing Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. My name is Melissa O'Neill Lowe, and I am the Director of Boards and Commissions for Governor Janet T. Mills. I'm here today to present Governor Mills' nomination for the appointment of Samantha Horn of Reedfield to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. The Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board is governed in Maine statute under MRSA 12, Section 10308. As defined in statute, the board consists of 7 members: the Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, the Commissioner of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, and the coordinator of the Natural Areas Program as permanent members. The governor shall appoint the remaining 4 citizen members. One of these members must be a representative of state wildlife conservation organizations. The board is responsible for reviewing funding requests for specific projects from natural resource agencies and may award grants to projects that conform to the state's strategic plan. Samantha Horn is a graduate of Washington University in St. Louis with a double major in biology and English, and holds a master's degree in wildlife fisheries conservation from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Ms. Horn has spent her career dedicated to conservation and protection of Maine's natural resources. She spent 5 years as the aquaculture policy coordinator at the Maine Department of Marine Resources and 10 years at the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry as a planning manager, and has also served as acting director of the Land Use Planning Commission on 2 different occasions. Since 2019, Ms. Horn has served as the Director of Science for the Nature Conservancy. Outside of her professional work, she has served on the executive board of the Maine Association of Planners and her local school board. I have personally seen Sam's dedication to community, having served with her personally on RSU 38's board of directors for many years, during a time where public school restructuring and budget cuts were a looming theme. She is the mother of 2 wonderful boys and an avid outdoor woman, and is an extreme hiker who is passionate about our mountains and their surroundings. Samantha's academic background in wildlife and fisheries conservation and nearly 20 years of natural resource work in Maine will make her a valued addition to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. I'm honored to be here today to discuss my friend Sam's nomination on behalf of the governor, and I am pleased to recommend Samantha Horn of Reedfield for appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board, and I'd ask that you support this recommendation. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Thank you so much, Ms. O'Neill-Lowe. Does the committee have any questions? All right, thank you so much for your time and kind words. And the chair now recognizes Ms. Samantha Horn for the purposes of making a statement concerning the nomination. Welcome, Ms. Horn. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. My name is Samantha Horn, and I am the Director of Science for the Nature Conservancy in Maine. I appreciate this opportunity to testify regarding my nomination to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. In this state, we are blessed with incredible natural treasures, and the Outdoor Heritage Fund is an important tool in keeping Maine's wildlife, lands, and recreation vibrant. While working for nearly 20 years in Maine state natural resource agencies, I was aware that many worthwhile projects became possible because of the Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. As with any public funding, thoughtful stewardship of these dollars is essential to provide the greatest public benefit at the lowest public cost. Working with my colleagues on the board to collaboratively make decisions about how best to support and protect Maine's natural heritage would be an honor. I believe my background provides me with a broad understanding of natural resource issues in Maine. As Missy stated, my education includes a bachelor's degree in biology and a master's degree in wildlife and fisheries conservation. Between degrees, I did seasonal field jobs in several states and learned what it means to do conservation work on the ground. In 1999, I began working for the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and then subsequently worked for the Department of Marine Resources and the Land Use Planning Commission. In each of those positions, I was learning about Maine's natural resources and making decisions about prioritizing among the many possible approaches to conserving them. During that time, I also built a strong network among my peers, which helps me to understand the context in which many of the proposed projects are set. When I left state government in 2019 and joined the Nature Conservancy as Director of Science for the Maine chapter, it was an opportunity to explore new aspects of natural resource management and conservation. TNC has a long track record of thoughtful science and conservation globally and in Maine, and I have talented colleagues who are experts in many of our state's natural systems. In my current role, I am fortunate to collaborate with our staff to understand science and conservation work through a nonprofit lens. Now, with the state government context from my past work and the expertise of my current organization, I feel that I would bring a valuable perspective to the board and look forward to the opportunity to learn from and with my colleagues, the staff, and the applicants. Thank you for your time, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Horn. Any questions from the committee? All right, not seeing any. All right, now the chair will take comments from any persons attending the hearing who wish to speak for or against this nomination? If you are here to speak neither for nor against, if you could raise your hand, that would be great. I don't see anybody. Okay. Then I think with that, we can go ahead and take the vote. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources recommends to the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature that the nomination of Ms. Samantha Horn of Reedfield for appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board be confirmed. In accordance with 3 MRSA Chapter 6, Section 157, and with the joint rules of the 130th Legislature, the vote will be taken by the yeas and nays. A vote of yes will be in favor of recommending the confirmation. A vote of no will be against the motion to recommend confirmation. Is the committee ready for the question? All right. The committee clerk will call the roll.
Okay. Vote to confirm Samantha Horn. Senator Brenner.
Yes.
Senator Brenner votes yes. Representative Tucker.
Yes.
Representative Tucker votes yes. Senator Bennett.
With gratitude, yes.
Senator Bennett votes yes. Representative Hanley.
Yes.
Representative Hanley votes yes. Senator Carney. Senator Carney is absent. Representative Bell.
Yes.
Representative Bell votes yes. Representative Bloom.
Yes.
Representative Bloom votes yes. Representative Dudera.
Yes.
Representative Dudera votes yes. Representative Gramlich. Representative Gramlich absent. Representative Johansson.
Yes.
Representative Johansson votes yes. Representative O'Connor.
With pleasure, yes.
Representative O'Connor votes yes. Representative Toole. Absent. Representative Toole is absent. Representative Ziegler.
And this makes it unanimous. Yes.
Representative Ziegler votes yes. The vote is unanimous.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations. So with how many, what was our number there?
10 yes, 3 absent.
With 10 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and 3 absent, the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources confirms the nomination of Ms. Samantha Horn of Reedfield for the appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. Congratulations. Yes, Representative Dudera.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Ms. Horn. And as an avid hiker myself, I was just curious, what is your favorite hike in our beautiful state?
That is a great question. So I think my favorite hike in Maine is to do a multi-day winter trip in Baxter, you know, like a hut to hut and trying to get up to the tablelands if possible, although that's always a challenge. But if you were to ask me about my favorite summer hike, I might have to go just over the border into Evans Notch. I know it's terrible, isn't it? But Baxter is just incredible, and it will always be first in my heart.
Well, this shows us that you're honest, so that's good. Thank you.
Having spent a lot of time in Flagstaff when I was a student, a Wildcat at the University of Arizona, I enjoyed my time there.
And there's a good bit of Evans Notch, which is in Oxford County, Maine, so it's all good.
That's true. And Oxford County is a really special place. The Bald Face Circle Trail, though, is just incredible. I don't know if you've ever hiked that. It's just amazing.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for advertising Oxford County. Appreciate it.
I think you were advertising Oxford County.
Paige,
You're
Paige,
on to
do I
me.
put in a plug? Do I put in a plug for the Camden Hills right now, Paige? That's
Please
your
do.
Excuse me, that's in the, yes, I will. And Waldo County is an exceptionally beautiful place. Isn't that correct, Ms. Horn? And we have a ton of trails.
It is. And this time of year, Camden Hills is awesome because it dries out before every place else. So I was just there a couple weekends ago hiking, and it was almost ice free. It's pretty special. It's such a gorgeous view.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. All right. Thank you. And next up, this is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources for the purposes of considering the nomination by the governor of Mr. Stephen Tatko of Willimantic for the appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. Under the law and joint rules of the legislature, this committee is required to hold this public hearing and to recommend confirmation or denial of the nominee by major vote of the committee members present and voting. As chairs of the committee, we will then send written notice to the committee's recommendations to the President of the Senate. The committee will hear testimony from and have an opportunity to question the governor or her representative, the nominee, and any other persons present who wish to speak for or against the nomination. This meeting is currently being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel. This means that anyone who's present is a participant in the meeting via Zoom can be seen and also heard if their microphone is unmuted. People testifying cannot be seen or heard until they are called upon to speak. This meeting will be recorded and available on the committee's YouTube channel. Pursuant to Title III, Section 157 of the Maine statutes, which requires that there be an affirmative motion to recommend confirmation of the nominee, the chair recognizes Representative Dudera for the purposes of making such a motion.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to make a motion that we nominate Steve Tatko to the position on the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board.
Great. And the chair now recognizes, is it still Ms. O'Neill Lowe or, okay, Ms. O'Neill Lowe for the purposes of making a statement concerning this nomination.
Thank you, Senator Brenner, Representative Tucker, and esteemed members of the Joint Standing Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Again, my name is Melissa O'Neill Lowe, and I'm the Director of Boards and Commissions for Governor Janet T. Mills. I'm pleased to be here today to present Governor Mills' nomination for the appointment of Stephen Tatko of Willimantic to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board. If it pleases the committee, I'd like to get permission to skip over the statutory requirements since having read it in our first set of testimony. Thank you. Stephen Tatko is a graduate of Colby College with a degree in history and has done coursework in conservation financing at Yale School for the Environment and in silviculture with the United States Forest Service. In addition, he is a registered Maine intern forester and a wilderness first responder. Mr. Tatko began his professional career as a Northwoods policy advocate at the Natural Resources Council of Maine. Since 2011, he has been the director of Maine Land Conservation and Management for the Appalachian Mountain Club. Outside of work, he serves on professional and community service boards, including Cooperative Forestry Research Unit, University of Maine Advisory Board, Piscataquis County Soil and Water Conservation District, Maine Mountain Collaborative, Kaijo Mary Multiple Use Forest Board member, Keeping Maine's Forest Advisory Board, Penobscot Salmon Habitat Recovery Unit, Wabanaki Conservation Delegation member, and several others. Mr. Tatcoat's breadth of knowledge and experience in the management and conservation of natural resources will make him a valuable addition to this board. On behalf of the governor, I'm pleased to recommend Stephen Tatco for appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board and would ask that you support the governor's recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time, and thank you all for your time this afternoon. I apologize if I feel like I'm repeating myself here. This is about my 15th hearing in the past 12 hours, it seems.
You're doing a great job, and we're grateful for your testimony.
We're pretty tired over in this office, but we really appreciate all the hard work you're all doing on behalf of our nominees.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. O'Neill Lowe? All right, not seeing any. Thank you so much. And the chair now recognizes Mr. Stephen Tatco for the purposes of making a statement concerning this nomination. Welcome, Mr. Tatco.
Hello, thank you, Senator Brenner and Representative Tucker and members of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. Stephen Tatco from Willimantic, Maine. I'm coming to you today from my office here in Greenville, Maine, where I work for the Appalachian Mountain Club as their Director of Maine Conservation and Land Management, a position that I've been fortunate to have now for 9 years. And sort of, I think for me, it's been very impactful and very meaningful having grown up here, actually utilizing the land base that I now manage as an outdoor citizen of this state to be engaged directly with the conservation of the region. I feel that a lot of the work that the organization sets in front of me has enabled me to interact with lots of the interest areas that the Maine Outdoor Heritage Board engages with in terms of conservation of the fisheries and wildlife and habitat, directly acquisition and management of public lands, and also the conservation of endangered and threatened species and natural resources law enforcement. And I particularly am interested in and feel that my own work priorities align quite well with the mission of the board to engage in public and private partnership to find innovative solutions to these natural resource problems that are presented. And I would hope that my experience in building coalitions and building collaborative efforts directly in the management of actual natural resources would be of service to that board. And I would be honored to work to that end and honored to be a part of those discussions and aid in those decisions. I think I appreciate Ms. O'Neill's sort of overview of my qualifications. And so I guess at this time I would submit to any questions that you might have of me.
Any questions from the committee? Yes, Representative Tucker.
Mr. Tatco, is the Appalachian Mountain Club still based on Joy Street in Boston?
We actually moved offices. We'd been in Boston at that office since 1924, but they're now in City Square across the river in Charlestown.
Oh, how long have they been there?
We moved the headquarters in 2016, if memory serves.
Yeah. Oh boy. Are you a member of the 4,000 footer club?
I'm not. No, I have to say, my interest in working for the Appalachian Mountain Club was for their work here in Maine. You know, being a Piscataquis County resident, I wanted to get involved with what folks were doing and making sure that local people had a voice in managing the assets here in the state. So I'm not a member of the 4,000 footer though.
Have you done the 4,000 footers in Maine?
I have, yes.
Okay. Have you done them all during the winter?
No, I've done probably 3 of them in the wintertime, but not all of them.
Yeah, okay. My son and I did the 4,000 footer club when he was about 12. A lot of trips, and it was a lot of work, and we kept meticulous records and photographs because we wanted to be able to prove that we had climbed every peak. And when it came time to do so, we assembled our package and we sent it down to Joy Street. And we thought that they would summon us for a hearing and question us. And we were all excited and we studied up and we had all our proof and everything. And in the return mail, the badges came. We were so disappointed. We thought that there'd be a vetting process. So what's the story? How come the Appalachian Mountain Club doesn't verify these people? I mean, I could have been anybody asked for a 4,000 footer badge without any verification. Why do they allow that?
Well, it sounds like your packet of material spoke for itself, I would assume. That you've actually done the work. But I think you raised the interesting point, which is getting people excited about these places is in and of itself a form of stewardship and a form of engagement. And I think that's just as critical. So thank you for your initiative.
Thank you very much.
Senator Bennett, I'm going to ask a question first, if that's okay. Chair's liberty. And Mr. Taco, you and I have the unique experience of both participating in the First Light learning journey. And I am really appreciative of your work on behalf of tribal communities to bridge that divide between the conservation work and the tribal communities. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to your work with the Wabanaki Confederation delegation.
Yes, well, that's, I should preface this by saying that the commission has only recently been seated by their individual tribal governments. And in fact, our first meeting for that commission will actually be next week. So on that particular body, I'll be serving as a non-voting member, representing really sort of a suite of options that the conservation community can bring towards furthering efforts that the Wabanaki tribes bring forward towards their own conservation initiatives. But I think it's not dissimilar to the work of the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board, where there's a need to think collaboratively and think constructively about how to leverage public-private partnerships and existing resources, perhaps in a new way, to benefit somewhat of an underserved community in our state, and their direct access and need for the resource and direct sort of interaction with the place that we all call home. Certainly a lot evolving there.
Thank you for that. Senator Bennett.
Thank you. I have no doubt that Representative Tucker's well-earned reputation preceded him to Joy Street, so there was never any doubt about his getting his badges. Mr. Tadco, I just wanted to just say this, which is my wife and I had the pleasure in February of visiting Little Lyford Camp and for a weekend. And if the work that you have done through your organization is any indicator of the kind of work you'll bring to this board, I think we're very, very fortunate to have you. I mean, the public-private partnerships of which you speak are on full display. The combined interests very sensitively worked on in terms of multi-use, in terms of access for different kinds of recreation that different people have a desire for, is really phenomenal. And I hope and expect that you'll bring that kind of energy and attitude toward the service on this important board. And I really thank you for putting yourself forward for it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Bennett. I appreciate that. And thank you for coming and taking a look.
Everybody should. Everybody should, because it's phenomenal. I know Senator Brenner has been up there too, and probably many more of you, but I highly recommend it. And it's some precious parts of Maine up there. Some precious parts that actually are not in Oxford County, for the record.
All right, any additional questions for Mr. Tatko? Thanks for joining us. And now we will take any comments from persons attending this hearing that wish to speak for or against the nomination. If you want to raise your hand, we can bring you in, call on you. All right, not seeing anyone. So all of the public comments have been taken, then that brings us to the vote in accordance let's see, where are we here? Hold on. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources recommends to the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature that the nomination of Stephen Tatko of Willimantic for the appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board be confirmed. In accordance with 3 MRSA, Section 6, Chapter 6, Section 157, and with the joint rules of the 130th, the vote will be taken by the yeas and nays. Is the committee ready for the roll call?
Okay. Confirmation of Stephen Tatko. Senator Brenner.
Yes.
Senator Brenner votes yes. Representative Tucker.
Yes.
Representative Tucker votes yes. Senator Bennett.
Yes.
Senator Bennett votes yes. Representative Hanley.
Yes, I don't know how I shut myself up.
Representative Hanley votes yes. Senator Carney. Senator Carney absent. Representative Bell.
Yes.
Representative Bell votes yes. Representative Bloom. Representative Bloom absent. Representative Dudera.
Yes.
Representative Dudera votes yes. Representative Gramlich. Representative Gramlich absent. Representative Johansson.
Yes.
Representative Johansson votes yes. Representative O'Connor.
Yes.
Representative O'Connor votes yes. Representative Toole. Representative Toole absent. Representative Ziegler.
And once again, I'm lucky enough to make this unanimous. Yes.
Representative Ziegler votes yes. It's 9 yes, 4 absent.
All right, and 9 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and 4 absent. It is a vote of the Joint Standing Committee on the Environment and Natural Resources that the nomination of Mr. Stephen Tatko of Willimantic for appointment to the Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Board be confirmed. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
All right, any additional questions, concerns, comments this
Thank you all
afternoon?
very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. O'Neill-Lowe.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, Stephen.
All right, I believe that is all we have for today. Any housekeeping items, any announcements? Yes, Representative Hanley.
Yeah, yes, I think just once we should reverse the alphabetical questioning so that Representative Ziegler can go first once.
All right. Noted. Yes,
Well,
Representative Tucker.
Oh,
Representative Ziegler, would you like to reply?
I always like to go last just to watch the faces of the people that go before me.
When you go first, you really have to be paying attention. Representative Tucker.
I have a question about the script that we use for this nomination process. As I recall, there was a 15 or 20-minute rule in there that said that the committee had to wait 10 or 15 minutes before they could, after the hearing was closed, before they could vote. And so I want to know if we have to do those all over again, or if they've been erased from the new Zoom rules.
That's a great question. So maybe I should have asked you all if we wanted to forego that 15-minute rule.
That's okay. I think we did by our silence. But that was one of those weird artifacts that goes way, way back that nobody ever pays any attention to. I was curious if it was still there.
It is still there, but it's not in quotes, and I missed it. My apologies. Yes, Senator Bennett.
Yeah, thanks for that catch, Representative Tucker. You know, I think you can do what you have done, which is I think we, by our silence, have all acceded to the suspension of the rules in this particular case. But going forward, I think it'd be good just to say, you know, under suspension of the rules without objection, and then it's all clear.
I learn something new every day when I'm in committee. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. Bye.